My name is Dr. Ivan Pavlov. I am 93 years old, and I have practiced medicine longer than most of today's doctors have been alive. I began in a modest clinic near Novosibirsk during the Soviet era, and I've treated over 20,000 patients across continents. I've studied how the body breaks down, how it resists, and more importantly, how it warns us. And today I must warn you. I am not here to frighten you. I am here because I made a promise to myself years ago. If I see something endangering people's lives, especially after 60, I will speak. And what I'm about to share may save yours. Not long ago, a 67-year-old man named Charles came to me during a seminar I gave in New Jersey. He had started a new supplement routine, omega-3 capsules and something he heard about on television called ginkgo biloba. Natural, he said, from a health store. Within one night, he collapsed in his sleep. No warning signs. A clot had formed in his brainstem. Fortunately, he survived, but barely. At first, I suspected hypertension or a hidden vascular malformation, but no. His blood work showed something else, something very common in people over 60 who mean well, but act without full knowledge. He had unknowingly combined two powerful agents that both affect blood flow. One increases dilation, the other inhibits clotting. In younger bodies, this can be manageable. But in an older brain with aging vessels and slower circulation, this combination can trigger catastrophic events overnight. Now you might be thinking, but I thought omega-3 was good for my heart. Or, I heard ginkgo improves memory. And yes, they can be helpful when used correctly in the right person at the right time. But that's exactly why I'm speaking today. Because most people don't know when not to combine them. I've seen too many patients suffer, not because they made foolish choices, but because they were never warned. The supplement industry in the US is vast, mostly unregulated, and designed to sell you hope. But behind the glossy labels and wellness slogans, there are biological mechanisms. These substances interact, and your age plays a critical role in how they behave once inside your bloodstream. I want you to pause for a moment and ask yourself, have I ever taken two supplements together, assuming natural means safe? Have I ever trusted a label more than my doctor? If the answer is yes, you're not alone. You're like millions of people trying to do what's right for your body, but not always guided by science. And the truth is, doctors in the West don't always catch this either. They're overwhelmed. 10-minute consultations, insurance codes, algorithms. Meanwhile, the patient walks out with a bag of pills and a dozen questions unanswered. That's why I'm doing this episode, not to criticize, but to complete the conversation your doctor never had time to finish. In this podcast, I will tell you exactly what went wrong in Charles's case. I'll break down the science of what happens in your brain when two well-meaning supplements collide. And I'll show you how to protect yourself, not with fear, but with knowledge. Because at your age, one bad night can change everything. So don't go anywhere. In the next part, I will explain what most American doctors rarely tell you about brain clots, and why people over 60 must start seeing supplements as medicine, not vitamins. Let me begin this part by saying something that may surprise you. Blood clots are not always the enemy. In fact, they're a necessary part of survival. If you cut yourself, your body forms a clot to stop the bleeding. Without this function, even a paper cut could become fatal. But here's where things get dangerous. When clots form inside the brain, uninvited, especially at night, especially after 60. In my early years, we studied autopsies daily. We examined stroke victims, people who died in their sleep, and men who collapsed without warning. Over time, I noticed a pattern. The older the patient, the slower the circulation in the brain. The vessels had hardened. The platelets reacted differently. And if anything triggered abnormal coagulation, stress, dehydration, poor posture during sleep, or yes, certain supplements, the result could be catastrophic. Now let me explain something that your typical American doctor may not tell you, not because they don't care, but because their system doesn't allow enough time. There are two main types of clots that concern us in the brain, arterial and venous. Arterial clots often come from the heart or the neck and travel upwards. These are fast and deadly. Venous clots, however, form slowly. They are more common in elderly patients who lie down for long periods or take medications that thin the blood too much. In Russia, we learn to respect the delicate rhythm of the body. Everything has a timing. In the West, however, the approach often seems to be more is better, more pills, more potency, more combinations. But when you're over 60, more can mean risk. Let me be clear. I am not against supplements. I recommend certain ones myself. But your brain is not a laboratory experiment. It's a living, aging structure. And the circulatory system that feeds it? It changes drastically after 60. The vessels inside your brain lose elasticity. Blood flow becomes more sluggish, especially during the night when your blood pressure drops. Combine that with medications or supplements that affect platelet function and you create a dangerous environment. Your body might not clot when it should, or worse, it might form a clot in the wrong place. Now here's the problem. Supplements are marketed like vitamins, but many act like drugs. Ginkgo biloba, for example, affects platelet activating factor. Omega-3 alters thromboxane pathways. These aren't harmless changes, they're pharmacological effects. Most people, and sadly many doctors, underestimate the power of interactions. And this is particularly true in the United States, where patients often take a dozen different substances, each affecting the blood in a slightly different way. I've reviewed medical charts where no one warned the patient that combining 3 blood-thinning agents, even over-the-counter ones, could silently sabotage the brain. And age makes everything more fragile. After 60, the brain cannot tolerate the same pressure, viscosity, or oxygen interruption it once could. What was once just a headache at 40 can become a mini-stroke at 70. So here is my advice. Treat every supplement as if it were prescribed. Read every label. Tell your physician about everything you're taking, even the natural things. And never assume that just because something is sold at a health store, it is safe to mix with others. In the next part, I will finally reveal which 2 supplements you must not combine after 60 and explain exactly what happens inside the brain when you do. Now that you understand how clots work in the aging brain, I must finally tell you the 2 supplements that, when taken together after 60, can quietly lead to catastrophe. Omega-3 fatty acids and Ginkgo biloba. Yes, I know what you're thinking. You've seen commercials praising omega-3 for heart health, and you've probably heard that ginkgo can enhance memory and focus. That part is not entirely false. Each has its benefits, but not when used together in an older, slower body. Let me break it down as simply as I can. Omega-3, whether from fish oil or krill oil, reduces inflammation and makes the blood less sticky. It does this by interfering with the production of thromboxane, a molecule that normally helps your platelets clump together and stop bleeding. Ginkgo biloba, on the other hand, is a natural antiplatelet agent. It inhibits something called platelet activating factor. This means your platelets are even less likely to clump. Individually, these effects are mild, but combined, they amplify each other, making your blood so thin that the slightest vessel weakness, especially in the brain, can rupture or clot in a dangerous way. And here's the worst part. The damage often happens at night when you're asleep, lying flat, and your circulation is at its slowest. That's when your brain is most vulnerable. I had a patient, her name was Margaret. She was 72. Very sharp, very active. She had read an article about ginkgo improving memory and decided to add it to her routine, which already included high-dose omega-3. 2 weeks later, her daughter found her slurring words in the kitchen. She didn't fall. She didn't feel pain. But her MRI showed a small but critical clot in her left frontal lobe. It had formed silently while she slept. She survived. But her speech never fully returned to normal. Now let me be very clear. I'm not saying you should never take either of these. I'm saying that taking both without medical supervision after age 60 is dangerous, especially in the United States, where dosages are often far higher than necessary, and where people combine pills without realizing their overlapping effects. It's like pouring oil on the floor and then trying to run across it wearing socks. One on its own is slippery, 2 together is a fall waiting to happen, and you won't feel it right away. That's what makes it so deceptive. There's no chest pain, no dizziness, just one day a word won't come, or your hand doesn't grip the fork like it used to, and by then the damage is done. I've reviewed hundreds of charts with patients who had small strokes or unexplained bleeding, and one pattern kept repeating, omega-3 plus ginkgo. Every time they thought they were doing something good for their body. Every time they were shocked by the outcome. You see, the brain after 60 is like an antique violin, powerful, yes, but fragile. Any disruption in blood flow, any shift in viscosity, can throw off its music completely. So if you're currently taking both, I urge you to stop and listen carefully. In the next part, I will tell you exactly what to do instead, how to support your brain without putting it at risk. Now that you understand the risk, let me show you the path forward. I don't want you to live in fear. I want you to live wisely, especially when it comes to your brain. And the truth is, there are safer, more balanced ways to support cognitive health without endangering your blood vessels. In Russia, we don't just treat disease, we study rhythms. We watch how the body responds over time. And when it comes to the brain, we focus on synergy, not stacking. That means choosing supplements that work in harmony, not ones that collide. So let me share with you a protocol I've used for decades with my older patients. One that protects the brain, supports memory, and reduces inflammation without thinning the blood too much. First, instead of ginkgo biloba, I often recommend olive leaf extract. Why? Because it offers powerful antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects without disrupting platelet function like ginkgo does. Olive polyphenols, especially oleuropein, help protect small vessels in the brain from oxidative damage, which is a key factor in cognitive decline. Second, rather than high-dose omega-3 capsules, I prefer a moderate amount of cold water fish in the diet, 2 or 3 times per week, sardines, salmon, or mackerel. Why food instead of pills? Because your body absorbs it more gently. There's less risk of over-thinning the blood. And you also get other nutrients like selenium and vitamin D. Third, I add natural vitamin E, but only the mixed tocopherol form, not synthetic alpha-tocopherol, which can interfere with vitamin K and clotting. A small daily dose of mixed tocopherols helps maintain vessel flexibility and reduce oxidative stress, especially in older adults. And there's more, simple but powerful habits. I tell my patients, breathe through your nose at night. Why? Mouth breathing reduces oxygenation and raises blood pressure variability during sleep. Nasal breathing maintains better CO2 balance, which improves cerebral blood flow. It sounds basic, but it matters. I also insist on hydration first thing in the morning. After 7 to 8 hours without water, your blood becomes thicker and your vessels are slightly constricted. 1 glass of warm water with a pinch of sea salt and lemon can make a world of difference in circulation. Another principle, never take multiple new supplements at once. Introduce them one at a time over the course of weeks. That way, if something goes wrong, you know the cause. The elderly body needs time to adapt. Slow is not weak, it's intelligent. I also recommend blood tests every 6 to 12 months, not just cholesterol and sugar, but platelet function tests, inflammatory markers, and homocysteine. These give a clearer picture of vascular health than routine checkups alone. And above all, respect the limits of your body. After 60, more is not better. In Russia, we say, excess is the enemy of longevity. You must stop thinking in terms of quick boosts and start thinking in terms of long rhythms. Your brain is not a light switch. It's a candle, one you must protect from wind, flame, and smoke. So no, you don't need a dozen pills. You need a few well-chosen allies. Olive leaf, natural vitamin E, clean food, deep rest, gentle movement, and honest self-awareness. In the final part, I will tell you what to do if you've already combined ginkgo and omega-3. There is still time to act, and I'll guide you through it. If you've already taken ginkgo and omega-3 together, I want you to take a deep breath. This is not a death sentence, it's a wake-up call. And if you're listening right now, it means you care enough to take action, and that's already powerful. Let me start by saying, you are not foolish, you are not careless, you were simply misinformed. You did what millions of people do every day. Try to help yourself with the tools available. But now you have better information, and with that, we can act wisely. The first thing I want you to do is look back at the last 24 to 48 hours. Have you experienced any of the following? Mild headache that won't go away, blurry or dim vision in one eye, sudden forgetfulness or confusion, trouble holding objects or subtle shaking, a brief moment when your speech felt off. If you said yes to any of these, even if they passed quickly, I advise you to contact your doctor immediately and request two things: a coagulation panel, including platelet count, INR, and fibrinogen. If symptoms persist, a brain MRI even if you feel okay. Silent strokes are real, microbleeds are real, and the sooner they're identified, the better the outcome. Now, if you feel fine and haven't noticed any strange symptoms, here's what I recommend. Step 1. Stop the ginkgo immediately. It has a longer half-life and can continue affecting platelet function for days after discontinuation. Do not taper, just stop. Step 2. Reduce your omega-3 intake to food only for the next 7 days. No capsules. Instead, eat small portions of wild-caught fish, such as sardines or salmon, no more than twice during the week. This lets your system stabilize gradually. Step 3. Drink plenty of water. Dehydration thickens the blood and increases the risk of clots forming in narrowed vessels. Aim for warm, mineral-rich water to support circulation. Step 4. Elevate your head while sleeping. Just 10-15 degrees. This improves venous return from the brain and reduces overnight stagnation in delicate capillaries. Step 5. Move gently but regularly. A short walk every 2 to 3 hours during the day stimulates blood flow and helps balance coagulation factors naturally. And here's a step most people miss. Forgive yourself. I say this not as a doctor, but as someone who's seen regret eat people alive faster than disease. Knowledge doesn't make you guilty. It makes you responsible. Now that you know, you're doing what 90% of people never do: respond with intelligence. Also, I advise you to make a list of every supplement you take and bring it to your next appointment. Not just prescription medications, everything. Herbs, teas, powders, gummies. Your doctor may not ask, but you must still tell. I've treated war survivors, astronauts, monks, and grandmothers, and I can tell you with certainty, the body will forgive a lot if you give it a chance. So let this experience be the beginning of a new phase, a phase of clarity, a phase of simplicity, a phase where every choice you make is not based on fear or hype, but on wisdom. You are not alone, you are not broken, you are aging, and that is not a weakness, it is a stage of refinement. Thank you for listening. I am Dr. Ivan Pavlov. I've devoted my life to understanding the aging body, and I believe the second half of life can be the most powerful if you learn how to protect your brain. Take care of it. It is the throne of your being, and you only get one.